We are going live. We're going live. What's up, everybody? It's Tyler with Hooksets are free. It is a little after 9 p.m. on Thursday, December 29th, 2022. Hope everybody is doing well. Um, Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. I have not been on for a couple of weeks, so I apologize. I miss you guys. Thank you for reaching out. Thanks for the support. I mean, I keep in touch with some of you guys by way of direct messaging on social media, on Instagram, and otherwise. So, um, happy holidays to all of you guys. I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes to hop in here. I think Oliver Nye from Big Bass Dreams is doing a live stream tonight. So, I'm not quite sure whether we will get many people in here, at least immediately, or not. But I do have a package to unbox. This is just my standard monthly unboxing from Discount Tackle. So we'll wait probably 5 or 10 minutes, give people just a few minutes to kind of roll in here, get a notification or what have you before I open this package. But let's just kind of hang out and chat for a second. Uh, the numbers look a little off to me. It shows that there's just one person in here, but 3 thumbs up. I see Daniel, Frank, and Riley all in the chat. What's up, guys? Merry Christmas. Um, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate. In my house, we celebrate both. So it was kind of fun that there was some crossover this year where the last 2 nights of Hanukkah were on Christmas Eve and Christmas. But um, Frank says, I'll be listening slash watching while I work. All right, Frank, no problem, dude. Appreciate you stopping by. Riley, I am having a pretty good night so far. Last night was a bit of a disaster for me. Had to drive home from the mountains in blizzard conditions, and the highways were closed in all but one direction for me to be able to get home. Took me over 5 hours um, of what would normally take me about 2 hours door to door. So made it though, safe and sound. All is well. We had about 12 inches of new snow overnight here outside my house, here just south of Denver. So pretty wild. It's hard to keep fishing on the mind all the time because for me, it's ski season, which is awesome. I just got 2 days of skiing in and hit it super hard uh, 3 days ago on the 26th, and then also pretty hard the morning of the 27th. So skiing is fun for me, but it feels good to be sitting right back here staring at all of the baits. I honestly haven't touched much of anything since the last time I was back here, like almost 3 weeks ago. So I'm kind of embarrassed. Of course, I've got stuff up in my office. All my rod and reel setups are up there, and I tinker with some baits up there. I've been tying a bunch of flies as of late, but yeah, man, I it feels like it's been forever since I've been out fishing. And it's cool to remember that I purchased these baits recently from the hookup, these Burrican swimmers from Owner or Get Net rather. I'm pretty excited about those. The 5-inch mag slows. Might just end up swapping these feather trebles and throw them on some mag drafts. I've got ideas, and so anyway, it feels good to be back into a fishing mindset, if you will. I know that you guys on our group chat on Instagram are popping off like all day, every day. I can't quite keep up with it, but it's fun. And Adam says, "Sweet, we can talk about Frank very shortly in the chat." Yeah, Riley, no worries. It was a wild snowstorm. It happens a couple times a year. And somehow I always manage to get stuck in these blizzards on these wild drives home from the mountains. I wish I would have gotten some of the last few days on my GoPro. I'm kind of kicking myself that I don't have a little bit of like skiing content, maybe a separate channel, or maybe not even something that I post, but I do need to record more skiing content. So let's whoa. We've got one heavy thing in this package that is the reason why this box is the size that it is, and the reason that it's weighted kind of weird and wants to roll around on me. So I have got a knife this time, guys. I don't know if it was Frank or who it was that gave me a hard time um, in the last couple of unboxing videos, but I do have a knife here. All right, we'll go ahead and do this the old-fashioned way. Although Discount Tackle used a very funny um, box to put this in, so I'm not quite sure the right way to open this. You'll notice that it overlaps kind of funky. But there is not a lot in this package, but there is a lot of value in this package for what I paid. And so I'm super pumped about it. It is kind of coincidental what is in here, given the fact that Oliver Nye is streaming right now over at Big Bass Dreams. I know that a lot of you guys watch his content and were probably tuned into his live stream last week. So this just happens to be a coincidence, a purchase that I made before that live stream. So kind of funny, but let me catch up on these comments for a second. Bruce Nichols in the house. What's up, Bruce? How you doing? Oh, Daniel, it was you on the knife. Well, you know, I told you I have a decent knife. This is a James knife, and I just don't carry it on me all the time. I usually keep it upstairs. And so for whatever reason, I end up with no scissors and no knife down here, and I end up just, you know, I've got 100 fish hooks, so I'll just go ahead and use a hook to open most of my boxes. But glad I could make you happy with the knife. All right. So we're going to start with the little stuff, and we're going to go to the big thing in here. So the little stuff is just a few packs of soft plastics, specifically some Nico style worms. So, you know, let me see if there is an invoice. Okay, so keep in mind, drum roll please, I spent a whopping $80 on this order, including taxes and shipping, okay? So first thing is the 13 Fishing Bubble Butt. And I've already unboxed this bait once before, but this thing was on clearance for $2 a pack. So I decided to pick up a couple more packs of these. Now, the annoying thing about these is, check this out. These are the same size bait, both 6-inch in the bubble butt. Six-inch bubble butt, witch's brew. And this is the 6-inch bubble butt in the collard greens. Okay. This packaging is obviously the correct size to fit the clamshell that goes in here. So it kind of annoys me that they goofed up on the packaging for a while, put these in two separate styles of clamshell and two different size bags. So they goofed up on that. You know, well, hopefully I'm not going to trip too bad. We got Brendan in the house. Ayo, indeed. So Witch's Brew is just a standard June bug type of color. Keep in mind, this is not a particularly special worm. I ordinarily might just gloss right over it, but at $2 a pack, even only with 6 worms in a pack, this is an interesting bait, okay? It is a 6-inch shaky head style worm. It has a hollow tail, so that you can put scent or a rattle or what have you in that tail, and also that tail will float up for you. It also has a segmented body so that you can kind of customize what you want to do with it. You can remove this little nub on the nose so that it will fit flush up against a shaky head or something like that, or a bullet weight if you're Texas rigging it. Um, you can Nico rig this thing quite well, and you've got that egg sac here. You could trim it down and take an entire section off and make this a really finesse worm at more like 4 inches. So, um, you know, it got me thinking about the different things that you could do with this bait. And so I figured, what the hey, I'd pick up a couple packs and give it a whirl. So June bug, they call witch's brew, and green pumpkin, they call collard greens. So 2 packs of those, nothing super special about those, but the deal was too good, you know, $2 a pack. I will buy most soft plastics that seem to be reasonable quality, and this fits into that category. So, you know, what can you do? I got suckered into the purchase, and I would do it again. No regrets. Okay, 2 packs of the bubble butt. And now this one was actually not a good deal, but I'm still excited about it because I haven't gotten my hands on this bait yet. And this is the larger size of the Ned Zone. So this is the X Zone Nico Ned Zone, they call it. So the Nico Ned Zone is essentially just a longer version of the Ned Zone, designed specifically to be Nico rigged. This is 4¼ inches long, and I have raved about the Ned Zone forever. Okay, and I won't ever stop. So when I saw that they were releasing this size bait last year, the first thing I thought was, well, it's about damn time, because most companies these days are releasing both sizes at the same time. And X Zone only had the Ned Zone out for like a few years before releasing this larger size of the Nico Ned Zone. So super cool. You do have a little bit more of a gradual taper. So it's not like you could just trim this down an inch and have the original Ned Zone. So it does have same proportions in terms of taper, but I would imagine you're going to get the same buoyancy out of this bait. I don't know for certain that it's the same formula of soft plastic, but it feels like it. It's got that same scent on it, but it's a super, super soft and buoyant soft plastic, which I'm a huge fan of. And I can't say enough good things about the Ned Zone itself. So I don't think Discount Tackle has these on sale at all. In fact, this is one of those fluky situations where Tackle Warehouse has a better retail price than Discount Tackle, which does sometimes happen. You know, Tackle Warehouse has their own pricing. It is not always full manufacturer retail suggested pricing. So this is the other color pattern that I got here. So green pumpkin blue, and then this one is called Bass Candy. So super cool little worm here that that I'm excited about. Okay, very basic, straightforward situation there. I'm going to throw this exclusively on a Nico rig, maybe a drop shot, and maybe a Ned rig with a slightly longer hook. So like a power Ned situation. The power finesse shrooms from Z-Man with that size 1/0 or 2/0 hook on there could be a good one for it. So boom, Nico Ned Zone. And drum roll, please. We got one last thing in the package, and it's big, and I'm excited about it. Brendan, what's up? What's up? The trip was great, man. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. No, Brendan, I have no 10-inch Senkos in this pack. Sorry. But I do have something big, and that's why the box is big. So you're not far off in terms of size. Okay. Frank says you're a 10-inch Senko, Brendan. That's hilarious. I love the banter between Frank and Brendan in our chat on Instagram. So this is the last thing in the box, guys, and drum roll please, because I got a screaming deal on this right here. I don't know how it was the case. I've never tried this bait. I've only heard mixed things about it over time. And it wasn't even quite on my radar until I saw it on clearance at Discount Tackle. As I said, this is a little bit of a coincidence given last week. Bum, ba, bum. Can you read it? So this is the Megabass Ice Slide 262. So this is a big boy bait right here. And was covered pretty heavily last week on the Big Bass Dreams live stream. And was just a funny coincidence because I had already placed the order for this and was waiting on it when he covered this bait on the live stream. And it was interesting to say the least because I got a lot of good advice on things to do with this bait and what to keep in mind about it. So I am excited to open this puppy and unbox it. Theoretically, I could leave this sealed up and probably resell it and make a little bit of a profit on it. But I will tell you what, this bait retails at like $100. I don't know. You tell me, Brendan. What does this bait retail at? Can Brendan or Daniel give me a quick check? I think it retails right at like $100, maybe 109 or something like that. But no, Brendan, you're not going to be able to guess the color unless you were already aware that it was on clearance at Discount Tackle, because this is not the color that they talked about last week. I don't think Oliver mentioned this color at all, and he mentioned like 10 or 15 different colors. So, you know, that's the thing. This isn't necessarily a high profile color, but I actually really like it. So, little ASMR, we're going to unbox this puppy. Yeah. That's a nice sound, right? Right. All right, so retail value is $94.99, okay? I paid $67.72. I thought I paid even less than that, but I guess it was $67. So you do the math. What is that? $27 off, 30%, something like that. You usually don't find a deal like that on Megabass. So I decided to pull the trigger and spoil myself just a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, baby. So this color is called Ugui. And I think from afar and in clear water situations, this thing is going to resemble a wide variety of bait fish as well as trout. So I actually quite like this color pattern, even though it's relatively subtle and doesn't necessarily resemble any one particular thing. So you've got the white belly on it, little bit of a hint of reddish on the bottom, which I like. And then just a pretty natural ghosty silver with some brown and black with some red in there. So beautiful looking bait there. And this is all of a sudden probably the biggest bait that I have. Definitely up there, if not the biggest bait in terms of weight that I'll be throwing. You know, the Magnum Shine Glide from Savage Gear is 4.5 ounces, and I believe this guy right here is more like 6 or 6.5. Can someone quote me on that? So, as I learned last week, the tail needs to be stored separately and detached from the body because it will warp it will melt. Doesn't play well with other things, but uh, I heard that the easiest way to insert this tail is to lubricate like so. Obviously, I've never done this before, so I'm just whoop, trying for the first time. Oh, can I get it? Yeah, she's in there now. Okay. And I think it's upside down. I put it in upside down. What do you know? That looks horrible. And that's how she should look. Not going to snap it back in right now, but okay. Um, can you go like that? Or is it really meant to only be rigged like so? It feels like there's a proper orientation to this tail. Um, but keep in mind, I am a noob with this bait. But I feel like I did learn a fair amount last week. Now, a lot in terms of nuance in how to tie direct versus use a snap, use a swivel, different line setups and things like that, whether or not to tweak the bait with different hooks or weighting. But the biggest thing that I learned was mostly about the retrieves and how to work the bait. So I'm excited to play with it come springtime because I think it could be a killer um, around some trout eaters, with it being a little bit more of an aggressive style glide bait that is meant to be worked more like a jerk bait slash underwater uh, top water. I'm pretty fascinated by that and just that it kind of deserves to be in its own category in terms of how it ought to be used. So I feel like it was very convenient timing for them to do that live stream and just talk the heck out of that bait when it was seemingly not on my radar much before that. And I had just purchased one and wasn't quite sure. I wasn't even like fully pumped about it. I just knew the deal was good, and that for what it is, that the value was right and worth a try. And now I'm actually super excited about it. So, all right, Matt, I didn't see you in the house. Matt and Adam Odin. Adam was already in here. My bad, Matt or Adam. Adam says, after your stream a few months ago, Tyler, the Megabass Grand Siglet has become my favorite topwater lure. Awesome, dude. Glad to hear it. That is pretty sweet. It is a really cool bait, super subtle for a crawler, but still has a lot of commotion to it. Um, I think it's killer for smaller species of fish for sure. Frank says, I like that bait. Now that I've seen it, I can put my phone away for a few minutes and clean the ceiling of this filthy coach. All right, dude. Yeah, 4.5 inch or 4.5 ounces on the Shine Glide, 6 on the eye slide. That's what I said. That's what I thought. It's like now I've got at least a handful of baits um, in that weight range that are going to need to be thrown on my Daiwa DX swim bait rod that is meant for heavier baits. So I'm excited about that. And to get to work with some heavier baits and just kind of see how I feel about playing that game and what kind of success I have in some initial time that I put into it, right? I understand that it's more of a long term play, but I'm not going to be that guy that just dedicates all my time to swim baits and gets rid of everything else. I want to give swim baits their due time, and so I'm excited to continue to go down that journey, if you will. So Matt had said that the eye slide was my first glide bait. Definitely slept on. Worked great for me, but I only used the 135 and the 185. Got it. Okay. And you said the hookup also had the 262 for 50% off. Nice. That's a hell of a deal. I probably would have bought that. But I wasn't really shopping around so much. Does anywhere have awesome deals going on right now? I know Tackle Warehouse still has their stuff going for another like 6 or 7 days through January 5th. And I will probably make an order or two there. I've got some stuff on my radar and they've got some pretty good deals. So I definitely have a cart, pretty fat cart loaded up at Tackle Warehouse. But where else has deals going on, guys? Let's talk about purchases that you guys have made as of late because I haven't been a big shopper this holiday season when it comes to fishing gear, but I'm going to round out a couple of purchases. Believe that because I got some money from Christmas that needs to be blown on fishing gear. I'll just say that, and I'm excited. Um, Brendan says, I like that the hooks are not attached to the bait too. Dude, I didn't even think about that. Dang, I just pulled that thing right out of the box. No hooks on it. You're so right. Does it come with hooks? Because I didn't even look. It's got to, right? So underneath here, wow. This really is like a piece of art. In the bottom, they provide 2 treble hooks that each come with double split rings, okay? And now this is a very, I'm not sure how I feel about this treble hook. Now, I get that Oliver and pardon me for not knowing the other dude's name who was talking about this bait last week. Um, he said he rocks these stock 100% of the time. Oliver said he does a lot of the time, and when he doesn't, he uses a very similar equivalent version of a hook made by BKK, but that essentially these 4x strong hooks allow the bait to suspend um, properly. And these are absolutely gigantic hooks. I don't know how I feel about them. It's insane that they were able to get a split ring around that hook right there. I mean, of course, it's a little bit worn out because how do you get a split ring around that? That's a big hook. So anyway, they've got the hooks in the bottom along with a little information pamphlet telling you about how to insert the tail, telling you about different tuning, and that it's made to slow sink in water between 50 and 59 degrees. Interesting. Cool. So, yeah, I am curious to see. Apparently you can, go lighter on the hooks, and that alone will make the bait slow float or perfectly suspend. So, just playing around with the hooks can be enough to really make a difference with the way that this bait acts in the water. So, thanks for the reminder, Brendan, that the hooks are not attached to this bait straight in the pack. And I like that too, man. Then the bait is just pristine and feels that much more like a piece of art in this packaging. But you know what? I am not going to be shy about fishing this bait, okay? And so one thing I want to talk about is the joint, right? Brendan, have you filed down the joint in this bait right here? Because this is not a steep angle, right? And I get that the bait was made to do its thing and have a pretty subtle swim, but and it's made to glide out wide when it's hit pretty hard. But I can't help but like I noticed when um dang it, what's his first name? The guy at Dream Catchers Fishing. Um he had been talking about the eye slide, and he went way aggressive on the joints, like made these guys flush. So the joint has an incredible amount of travel, and he is just walking this thing like on the surface. He's got it so that it's a floating bait or barely subsurface, and he's just walking it in place. So totally different way of working this bait, and he's made it very specific. Um, but he's fallen in love with a bait that he previously hated. So kind of an interesting idea, and one that I'm curious about everybody else's input, because relative to other glide baits, this is a not so steep joint. Look at that thing. Pretty crazy. Adam says he just made a tackle warehouse purchase last night, getting some Beast Coast swim jigs, trailers, and all the shaky head stuff. Nice, man. Nice. Mainstream fishing. What's up, Jermaine? How you doing, man? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Hope you're doing well, Jermaine. Sorry I didn't notice. I can't keep up with the comments right now. That's a good problem to have. I know you guys maybe don't feel like you're flying, but sometimes the management of comments is not all that easy. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Lightning Muskie. They definitely are saltwater hooks. Um, yes. You say Tackle Warehouse had some good deals, but you like previous year's deals better? Sure, that's fair. I hear you. So Matt says, I like the owner ST46 hooks. I think those ones would be better. I'll look into those for sure. Um, I'm a big fan of the 36, but the 46 is a good hook too. What size would you put on these guys? Because I know that the stock hooks are different size, bigger on the front than on the back. Um, I don't know the exact sizes. Are they like 3/0 and 1/0, or 2/0 and a size 1 or something like that? And you're right, Austin Neary was his name, is his name. Get some owners or decoy quad hooks. Yeah, the decoy quads are interesting to me. I haven't purchased those hooks yet, but this might be a good reason to do so. They are pretty expensive hooks, but again, good reason to do so. Brennan says, I haven't filed down an eye slide. Maybe I can do that live on one of the streams. Yeah, man. I'm thinking I'm going to file it down some, but I don't know how much to file it down, because I want to have some versatility with the bait. Uh, and I want to get to know the bait for kind of how it was meant to be used, and then tweak that given my preferences, what I like and don't like about the bait. I don't just want to straight out of the pack start filing it down and then find out that I don't like that type of action and not give myself the option to go backwards. I'd rather start with it tight and realize that I want a little bit more out of it, file it down a little bit to see just where that sweet spot is, before I go overboard straight out of the gate. But Austin Neary just went shoop, filed that thing down like 90 degrees, and kind of blew my mind. But the way he was talking about it and was so sold on it, uh, kind of fascinated me. Matt says a 1/0 hook, double split ring. Yep, makes sense. And Brendan, you're absolutely right. Check the action first and then mess with it. Well, take it easy. Well, you can add back material if you need. Not most of us, man. You have a way with the garage, and that is super impressive, especially given your age, man. But most of us are not going to be able to fix baits, let alone create baits the way that you do. So you keep doing you, Brendan, but that comment doesn't carry a lot of weight with me. I'm not adding material back and rebuilding my baits once I tinker with them, and there's no going back for me. Lightning Muskie says Wolverine makes extra heavy split rings. You can go after something big other than bass. Makes sense. Yeah, so does, I mean, the owner Hyperwire split rings are good enough, dude. And Matt says, I bet those DRT Shark 2-aught hooks would work great with that. Pretty light hooks, but have a very long shake. So, yeah, I mean, light hooks, dude, these hooks are not light. I don't have my scale down here, but um, these are beefy ass hooks. That would be an interesting thing to do sometime is weigh these hooks relative to other big hooks that I have. And we'll just come to realize how much of a difference that makes. In the weighting of a bait. So we'll do that sometime soon coming up. But yeah, that does it for the unboxing from Discount Tackle. So, kind of lame, kind of boring. Only got a few things this month, but it's fun for me to look down and see the stuff that I unboxed last time I was hanging out with you and realize that I haven't even looked at these baits again. And some of these were like impulse purchases for me at the time. So it's fun to see them here again. The bottom up Volley swimmer. I'm pretty jazzed about trying that thing. Again, like wasn't really on my radar at all until I stumbled across it, saw the good deal, checked it out a little bit, and realized, oh, yeah, that'll play. There's definitely a time and place where that action is going to work. And it's funny now that I look at this bait, it reminds me. Maybe I mentioned this last time. I don't know. It reminds me of this guy right here, the River to Sea D Walker, which has a very interesting and unconventional shape to it. Okay, so the Volley swimmer, likewise. Oh, see if I can show you, has a triangular shaped body that the top of the triangle is up. So it's a flat bottom bait, which gives this bait a very interesting action that has some roll and some wag to it that's pretty aggressive. So, again, not on my radar until it was all of a sudden. And now I got a couple packs of them to goof around with on some swim jigs and as standalone swim baits next year. And I even forgot that I had purchased the jointed claw. So yeah, this purchase, was this on the hookup or did I buy this from like Asian Fishing Portal? Because I'm pretty sure that's where I got this bait and it was like half off. Got it super cheap because this is a floating version, not a suspending. But yeah, I kind of wish I would have gone for the 230 in retrospect. It's like looking at this now compared to that ice slide. I'm like, oh man, this thing's tiny. Which is funny. It's like the 178 is really a wheelhouse size for most people, including for myself. But because I feel like I'm going to start going down the rabbit hole of big baits, not exclusively big baits. Keep in mind what I said earlier. But I have a feeling that if I start getting bit on really big baits, that the confidence that I have now in mid-size baits might change. And that makes me nervous for whatever reason. I don't know why. Who cares? All right. Whoop. Yeah, Matt, you're right. The hooks are super heavy. I'm excited to weigh them. I'll do that on our next stream. I'll bring my scale down and weigh those hooks for you. No, Brendan, don't embarrass me like that, man. I haven't cleaned and organized my tackle room just yet. Nope. Yeah, lightning muskie. I like the D Walker too, man. Very wild action. That like kicking, um, that head action of the bait is wild. There's a handful of swim baits out on the market that have that sort of action, and it's pretty rare considering the hundreds of swim baits that are out on the market. Oh, interesting. So, Matt, you say the Volop swimmer is heavily salted and weighted in a certain way to allow it to work well without a weighted EWG hook. So, um, I forgot that you had said that that it is really meant to be um, a swim bait that can run true higher in the water column um, when fished weightless. So that's a good point. Thank you for reminding me on that. You might need to remind me again in the spring, dude. I'm gonna try and bank that right here. Dave Jolly, yo, good to see you. Merry Christmas to you as well, man. Thank you very much. It's good to be back, even if it's just a short little session. Glad to see 19 people in here right now. We got 14 thumbs up. Appreciate you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Um, let's just shoot the shit when it comes to fishing and baits and whatever else. Tell me what you guys have been up to and what purchases or gifts you have made or received recently. I'm gonna catch up on these comments. Dave says Asian fishing portal is the jam. Yeah, it is, man. I'm pretty sure that that was my first purchase from there um, in buying some of these baits, and I was impressed, very impressed with the deals and with the whole process. I'm not mad about it. I will probably be buying again from there. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Brendan. That is a dope color, that Gatchicon white. Is that what they call it? I think. Of course, the whole package, the only thing in English is jointed claw, lipless swimming bait, floating, type F, 2 ounce class. So I don't see the color on here, but I'm pretty sure it's Gatchicon white, something of the sort. Adam Mahera, supersized baits will draw a lot of attention. Yeah, and I am not doubting that whatsoever. So for that alone, I'm super excited to throw giant baits to just see, um, generally speaking, what areas giant fish are holding and end up following this bait, even if they don't eat it. So that's a big part of why I'm going to start throwing oversized baits is to get the attention of big fish for me to be able to put two and two together, piece a little bit more of the puzzle together in understanding where and why fish are living in very specific areas. Um, because I'm slowly piecing that together. But it's more of just like a log over time, right? You end up catching fish on either the same presentation or on different presentations in the same location. You can figure that it's either a stretch, an area that fish are relating to, or a specific piece of cover. So without electronics, over time you kind of learn with more subtle clues that then eventually really kind of hone in on very specific information for you. And so to know where the biggest fish are living and why um, is huge. And I'm not quite to that point, on most of my bodies of water. So excited to kind of explore that next step, if you will, of going down the rabbit hole of mapping out my local fisheries because over the last handful of years, just of having the bass fishing bug, a big part of it for me was just time out on the water, getting to go fishing, getting to catch fish, getting to try new techniques and new baits. Um, that has been the rush for me and still is. But along with that came exploring new bodies of water, um, and finding kind of my regular rotation of places and also continuing to explore because I like it. Um, but as a result, I don't necessarily have one or two home bodies of water. I'm kind of always rotating. There's probably a few that I fish more than the rest, but it's not like I'm fishing any one body of water more than maybe 20, 25 times a year max. Um, so it takes time to really put those small pieces of the puzzle together. Daniel says, why do most soft swim baits have uh, like head and eyes when most jig heads already have eyes? Why not make to fit a jig head better? Some of them do, some of them don't. But um, I guess it's mostly for versatility and for realism, right? Part of it, the realism is that it catches us fishermen, right? When it looks more like a bait fish, when it has, the subtle little details of the scales on the head and stuff like that, and then you get the 3D eyes, you get the bulging of the eyes on the forehead of the bait. Just more realistic, but especially if you're going to fish a thing weedless and not on a jig head, then there you go. That's the main reason. But if you are going to fish it on a jig head, why not just snip it off right behind the eye? And there you go. You got it. You can fish it flush on a jig head. And I do that somewhat frequently with a lot of baits like this, specifically the spark shad in the 5-inch size and in the 4-inch size, I will throw on the back of a swim jig or threaded up onto an exposed jig head. So, here's a situation where I understand that it looks weird and I still don't trim the nose. I don't take the eyes off of this. You end up with a double eye situation on the Okashira screwhead with that spark shad. But there's something about it that it's not just the action of the swim bait in conjunction with this head, but I think the two eyes actually, I think there's something to it. So I don't know, man. It's all subjective, right? Um, but I think having it look more realistic up front, having more options of what to do with the swim bait just makes more sense. It's going to appeal to more people. Um, but that said, there are swim baits out there that are made to go on to jig heads straight up. Oh, Brendan, dude, I doubt you're still here, but have a great rest of your night, man. Sorry, didn't see that you were leaving. My bad. Adam says Venom offers some really interesting baits. The better beaver is um the better beaver what? Is a really great shape. Dude, I saw that the other day and saw that you had commented on it as something that you had like drawn up or thought about before and that you think is a fantastic design. I thought it looked really good too, man. I haven't tried it yet though. Bruce says I picked up a Stratic 3000 for $100 the other day. I saw that too, man. Sweet pickup, awesome deal. That is ridiculous. I wish I could find one myself for that. I would have picked up one if I could. So, Lightning Muskie says I got a deal on a G Loomis NRX 844 and bought a crap load of black label baits in OSP. Dang, dude. So you blew a nice fat budget, but sounds like you scored some really good stuff. Nice. Adam says, Daniel, eyes on swim baits are a marketing thing. Consumers are less likely to buy shad bodies. Yeah, that is true. Um, it sells the baits to us. It doesn't catch more fish. As we all know, the Kitech Swing Impact Fat is the most fish catchingest swim bait, perhaps of all time. It does not have eyes on it. Yeah, Matt says I just remove the eyes if I put it on a jig with eyes. Um, yeah, and you certainly could do that with this guy, right? I mean, there's no hurt, and they will come off after a bite or two usually if you don't super glue these eyes on here, because usually straight from the factory these eyes are not super glued on well. Somehow, some way, these ones are, but if you remove the eyes, then you get just a little bit more realistic of a look on this guy. So if that's your preference, then go for it. Then you're not going to notice those subtle details. It's really just a confidence thing for you, the angler. I don't think it could be proven that it catches more fish having 3D eyes on a bait. But a lot of people do buy into it. There's a reason that a lot of jig heads on the market these days all have 3D eyes, right? Um, it's just become a thing. Yeah, Adam, I knew you were going that route when you said that nobody buys shad bodies. You say Optimum sells swim bait bodies that are meant just for jig heads. Yeah, they sure do. Dave, I like that Okashira rig as well, man. I think it probably does well on all species of fish. This is something that, I think everybody agrees is an underrated rig, yet everybody's heard about it. Everybody knows that it catches the snot out of them, and yet not everybody throws it. There's just something about the blade, the action that is unconventional, that I think most people probably feel a little bit turned off by. And also, it requires a little bit of finesse to rig this thing properly, right? If you thread it up on there too far, then all of a sudden you impede the action of that blade and it does not work like designed. You have to rig that thing just right so that it's up on the bait keeper, but not impeding the action of the blade itself. But killer rig, you're absolutely right, man. Lightning Muskie, we were thinking the exact same thing. Kitech doesn't have eyes and fish love them. Lunker Hunt Battle Beetle. Adam. Um, is that a crawler bait? I mean, I can already tell you, it's lunker hunt, right? So it's gimmicky. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But the battle beetle, let's take a look at this. Oh, I did see this last year at Dick's one time, I think. So this is a wake bait, actually. Um, that I do find to be a little bit interesting. This is where I wish I was streaming on StreamYard right now so that I could show you guys this bait. But if you were to look it up, um, you'll see that this is a weird looking bait. Um, it's got a lip on the front, a small, slightly rounded square bill, but it's a wake bait lip, and it's got a jointed body that pivots in the back, but it's shaped like a beetle. It's a round bait with a joint in kind of the rear 30 to 40% of the body. And it's got two treble hooks instead of legs, feathered trebles off the back. So this thing's going to have a wake bait body swimming, knocking as it's coming through the water or across the top of the water. And I would imagine that it's pretty intriguing. And with two treble hooks right next to each other, hookup rates got to be pretty decent. So I have no opinions on it. But first impression is, well, it looks interesting. Now, is it worth $12? I don't know. They managed to price that just right to where I could probably get suckered into it, especially if it was a couple bucks off. I'd buy it for 9 or 10 bucks probably. But why? I don't know. Because I'm a sucker. We all are. And that's what Lunker Hunt does. Sorry, that's what they do best. Yeah, you guys are both right about those Optus shads and the diamond shads. Why don't they have those in a clamshell? There are some baits that just seem really obvious uh, that need clamshell packaging, and swim baits are one of those things. Like they're almost non-usable when they're all messed up. Like gambler swim baits, um, I don't get it. Reaction Innovation skinny dippers, I don't get it. It bugs me on some baits like that. Just need the clamshell. Adam says I asked people some keys to the Okashira rig. One comment that kept coming up was clear water. Um, yeah, so it's a super subtle bait, right? This is you're not going to do a lot with it. I feel like most presentations, especially with a swim bait, if I'm just looking around, a swim jig, for example, even though this has a chunk trailer, not a swim bait on the back, but a swim jig, you're going to impart a lot more action as the bait's coming through the water. The Okashira screwhead is a spy bait. This thing is a do nothing, straight retrieve, right through the middle of the water column or slightly above where the fish are positioned. And there's just something about the swimming of the spark shad or another similar small bodied paddle tail swim bait. I think 2.8 to max 3.3 inches is where you can go because this hook is like a one-aught hook and it won't fit baits bigger than that. And because of this presentation and the fact that it is so subtle and that fish need to be able to see it and come up on it, and I feel like you'll get a lot more fish in clear water that are following and nipping at the bait. And even with a 3-inch spark shad, you're going to get some nippers and some short strikes on this. So, got to keep the bait small and the action subtle. You do not impart any action with the rod. It's just a countdown and then slow, straight retrieve type of bait. At least in my experience, that's the way that I learned to use it, have used it, and have had success. Um, I think it's one of those things that you don't want to overthink and don't want to fiddle around um, just because I don't think there's much else to find out there. And of course, I could be wrong about that. Michael says, "Cheers, Tyler. I picked up a Daiwa Salamandura SV70. It's pretty much the same thing as the Tatula SV70, but with a drag clicker and a red and gold paint scheme. Nice, Michael. That sounds like a sweet reel, dude. Um, I wish you could send us some pics right now. Send me some pics. That sounds awesome." Lightning Muskie is hoping that Lucky Craft brings back the RC wake bait. Yeah, I don't think anything RC is probably coming back, dude. Rick Klun ain't getting any younger, and I don't think he and Lucky Craft. Yeah, it's just not gonna happen. Maybe Lucky Strike, maybe Ichikawa. Adam says, "I'm just looking for another topwater bug type of bait. Um, just love tossing to spots and letting something sit there with little vibrations." I might have another suggestion or two for you. Um, but yeah, I hear ya. So, how much do you throw a popper then, dude? Because you throwing a popper, you throwing a rat. Because I think a great bait for you to start with would be like the Spro BBZ1 Rat 30. It's still a small rat, um, and it gets bit really well. It's not the tiny little the 25 size that's almost more like a mouse. The BBZ1 Rat 30. You ought to give that bait a look for sure. But Um, dude, I'll get you some other suggestions of hard bait fly imitations. All right, dude, they exist. Frank says my best days with the Okashira screwhead have been with the perch colored Kitech 2.8, invisibility of less than a foot retrieved over riprap. Dude, interesting. Yeah, so it's not only a clear water thing, but that's fascinating to see that you went super subtle on them. But perhaps the fish were up dirt shallow, and and with that color of the bait that you were throwing, maybe that's what did the trick. So a little bit of flash, a little bit of color, and voila, you're able to smoke them in low vis situations. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anything is a be all end all type of situation, and I love hearing about Frank just got to come straight out. Um, Proven what I said and what everybody um, had told or what Matt had heard about. I forget who mentioned that, but about the Okashira screwhead being a clear water subtle bait. Matt says, I've heard the Hazadong shads are good as well in the Okashira screwhead. Yep, just like the Easy Shiner would be. Again, I think it's got to be in that size range of 2.8 to 3.3, and it's got to be a subtle to middle of the road type of action. I prefer something Easy Shiner to Spark Shad a little bit more than all the way to a Kitech, but you can throw anything on it because this thing is weighted really well, does run true, and I just have a little bit more confidence when throwing a subtle presentation with a subtle action bait. So Spark Shed for me is kind of middle of the road action, about as aggressive as I go on that guy. But I will throw like a Z-Man 3-inch minnows, and I'll throw that 3-inch Easy Shiner on there as well. Dude, Adam, you're right. Adam O needs a crick hopper and a crick popper. Dude, where are my trout crankbaits? My trout crankbaits. Oh man. Here it is. All right, I got them. Dang it, I hear someone upstairs. That's probably my daughter. All right, Adam, Odin, take a look, dude. Couple baits that you need. At the very least, gotta start with these ones. So the crick hopper is perhaps the most classic. This gold color is super underrated. I catch the snot out of them on that thing, but I do throw it in a bunch of different colors. They make it in a straight yellow or like a fire tiger, and even like a straight black and gold. So it's essentially just that Rebel craw, the wee craw, but turned into a shallow diving cricket slash grasshopper. And this has a pretty wild action. It's meant to be fished on a slow retrieve. So it will blow out if you fish it fast. But this bait smokes panfish um, and bass too. But absolutely deadly bait to throw near lay down trees, or overhanging trees, even better, and to just let it sit for like 10 or 15 seconds, and then maybe even slow pull this thing, slow retrieve it, and then kill it. It'll float right back up onto the surface. If you slow retrieve it, it's not going to go deeper than maybe 6 to 12 inches under the surface. And that crick hopper slays. They also make this bee version, um, and I don't know exactly what this is called, but this is a rebel bait also. The bumblebug, the rebel bumblebug. So check out some of the rebel baits because they make some good ones. But I'll need to give that some thought. Look at a few of my other baits that I think would be good or that I think you would like, dude. Try the Berkeley Twitch Tail. Terrible drop shot bait, but great on a jig head, says Adam. Huh. I've definitely seen that Twitch Tail. It looks good, right? It's one of those newer baits that's um, it's made with a straight tail, fork tail, and just looks like a soft jerk bait made to be thrown on a drop shot. But you say it's better on a jig head than on a drop shot. I don't know that I necessarily want to try the bait. It's not quite on my radar. I've seen it, but now you're gonna get me making bad decisions, bad purchases. But maybe I'm curious. Matt says the Lucky Craft crappie popper uh, is a good BFS popper. Looks like a bug or a cricket hopping on the water, or even a baby minnow. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about BFS too, guys. And that's really why I've got this entire 3,600 size box full of these small baits. Because I've had this box for trout fishing more than anything. The two main poppers that I throw for trout and on micro gear. So I'll throw for panfish as well as for bass. The two main poppers that I use are the Rapala ultralight popper. So this guy sits a little bit more flat on the surface, will spit a lot of water, and it has a more traditional knock in it. Okay. And then the other one is the Rebel Pop R. And this, what do they call it? The mini Pop R, the micro Pop R. But you just get a downsized package of the original Rebel Pop R. Awesome bait, but it is going to sit a little bit more tail down and be a bait that you're going to do a little bit more walking as opposed to spitting. Two different presentations, but both ones that do slay fish depending on their mood. So always a fun conversation. Bug bait time, says Dave. Michael says, I got it on AliExpress. I don't know if you got anything from there. No, I haven't bought baits on Chinese websites in a long time. But what was the bait that you were talking about again? I already lost your comments. Michael. Oh, really? The Daiwa Salamandra? You got it on AliExpress? Is that for real? Did not know that. I mean, is it real Daiwa or no, dude? That kind of weirds me out. Has anyone tried the Megabass Sewitch? Nope. I think Matt has a little bit of feedback on the sewage, perhaps. I can't remember if he does. Matt says, kind of like an OSP Duo Live stick copy. What bait? What bait? Oh, really? The Twitch tail is like an Duo Live stick copy? I don't know about that. But Adam says it's got the Twitch tail has awesome movement when it's reeled straight in. Huh. So maybe that would be a great bait to throw straight on a guy like this. That's the thing is a lot of people just put this guy right in a box saying that this is a swim bait presentation when in reality it's not. Think about a spy bait coming through the water, right? You've got the prop and you've got the profile. You do not have this secondary action of the tail kick. So why wouldn't a straight tail dead action type of bait, whether it's a straight thin tail or otherwise a straight fork tail, why wouldn't that be as killer, if not potentially better in a lot of situations, especially clear water, than a paddle tail swim bait? Food for thought. The teeny pop R. Thank you, Adam. Teeny pop R. Great bait. The entire pop R family is so underrated. Um, I had a stretch of a couple days last season, 2021, where they were murdering a popper. So for about a week, I caught a couple hundred fish on poppers, and it was the Rebel Pop R 2 days where they would murder it every single cast. Um, and I think it was the mid-size, not the full-size Pop R or the Magnum Pop R. I think it's just the standard Rebel Pop R, and absolutely wrecked them. There's just something about the sound of the Rebel Pop R and those BBs. Um, in addition to the action just being very classic and reliable, something that is better as a blooping bait more than anything else. But that's usually what I look for when I'm going to throw a popper is something that's going to move water and make that sound so that it not only attracts fish, but confuses them. It kind of triggers that feeding response because they assume that they're competing with another fish that's already eating bait that's blowing up on the surface. So um, I do really like a good Rebel Pop R, dude. Salamandra is legit. It's just a Far East version, says Lightning Muskie. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah. So Matt did talk about the sewage on his channel. He caught 4 fish on it or so. Um, yeah, that was a bait that came onto my radar right when I learned about it, when the hookup got them in, and I was just a little bit too slow to pull the trigger on them. So they sold out before I could get my hands on them, and you know, it's whatever because then shortly thereafter, another bait came out. Maybe it was the Shimano Arma joint or something rather that I pulled the trigger on shortly thereafter. So what can you do? It does look like an interesting bait. It reminds me most of like the Jackal Mikey. A multi-jointed subsurface swim bait. Right? Sinking bait, kind of half cranked down, half sinking swim bait that's multi-jointed, but definitely looks like an interesting bait, but it was like just barely expensive enough to make me uncomfortable. So I didn't pull the trigger on it right away. Daniel says, I'm not trying to order much right now, but I'm considering ordering the Okashira screwheads. Dude, I think you have to. I mean, I always feel weird if I realize that I'm starting to run low on them. So that ought to say enough. I get weirded out when I realize that I don't have them with me. It's not a technique that I use every time I go fishing by any means, but it is one of those that I think builds confidence quickly because it's the type of bait that catches them when not a lot else will. So, yeah, it's something that you kind of got to experiment with and start to work into your rotation, man. Rebel P70 is awesome, just a classic, says Lightning Muskie. It is, but it's a big bait, dude. Um, you know, I like the P70. For some reason, I like the sound and the action of the slightly smaller ones better than I do the big sizes. But that's just me up until now, at least. Might change my mind on that. All right, so Matt, you unboxed the Switch on Brendan or Jermaine's channel. Adam says, so what technique is everyone going to focus on? What, this upcoming year? What a freaking great question that is, dude. I might need to actually take inventory of what I've got, reflect on last year and what was most effective for me, uh, what rabbit holes were a waste of time, because I did more experimenting this past year than I have in prior years, and it cost me the number of fish that I caught, but I don't necessarily regret it. So, um, it's hard to say. I want to strike a balance between trying out new techniques and new baits while also doubling down on the things that have worked particularly well for me over the last couple of seasons, um, and work to master those techniques and develop that much higher confidence in those techniques and the time and place for them, because I feel like I'm chipping away in terms of my versatility as an angler, but in terms of mastery of anything, that is a very slow work in progress. Daniel says, "Have you tried the Hazadong on it or just the Spark Shad?" I have not tried the Hazadong. I don't have the Hazadong Shad in any 3 inch. I've only got them in the 4 inch size. So I've used the Easy Shiner from Kitech, and I've used the Spark Shad, and uh, I've used the Z-Man Diesel, not the Diesel minnows, the 3 inch minnows. That has a little bit more body on it and a little bit less tail kick. Um, so you just get different profiles, different actions out of all three. The Easy Shiner has the most streamlined body and perhaps the most subtle kick. And the Spark Shad has the widest profile, um, and perhaps the widest kick of the three. And the Diesel Minnows has a taller profile. It's somewhere in between the two. It's not as wide as the Spark Shad, and it's not as narrow as the Easy Shiner. Kind of an in betweener, but it's still got a lot of presence to it, and it's got a little bit of an in between type of kicking action. Um, so those are pretty much the three that I throw on 'em. I like the Diesel Minnows as well, particularly in the 4 inch, but uh, I've found that I throw the 7 more than I throw the 5. But yeah, the 3 inch minnows is a pretty underrated bait, especially on a jig head. That thing rigged on the Trout Eyes jig head, I believe, is a match made in heaven. So is it on this guy right here. Do I have any diesels or any minnows? Can I get a minnows? If only these baits didn't all end in Z. All right. So the Slim Swims will work too, but is not necessarily my preferred bait on this guy. I almost like it more on a chatterbait, whereas, and it's funny because I'm going to show you a chatterbait now, but just want you to see how it looks rigged up on a jig head because it's just so nice. And this is on that new chatterbait, the Willow Vibes chatterbait. Willow Vibe rigged it poorly. This is the thing that's so awesome about Elastec is you can rig it so poorly and it's not the end of the world. You know, if you're just rushing it like I am right now, not a big deal. You can just give her the old yank and call it good. So this is a heavier weight jig head on this Willow Vibe chatterbait, but this 3-inch minnows is an awesome swim bait that most people are overlooking. Okay, I'll say that most people are overlooking this little bait right here. Super straightforward. This is not made to be rigged on a belly weighted hook. This is meant to be thrown on a jig head, but it can be thrown on a weedless hook, and that hook will sit right in there. And this is one of those baits that you were saying, it is made with no head, made to be thrown on a jig head. You'll see that this tail has a middle amount of action that is not as subtle as the Easy Shiner, but not as aggressive as the Spark Shad. You know, with just how thin and how wide this tail swings on the Spark Shad is a bit more significant than what you get out of this 3-inch minnows. It still has a surprisingly good action for an Elastec bait that is so small and so thick, right? This is a pretty substantial body, the presence in the water. So let me go ahead and rig. I'm going to take off this Spark Shad, put this guy on here so you can just see that really this is about the biggest bait that you want to put on here. I didn't rig it all the way up here because I'm nervous. So you'll see that's a poor rigging job. But here's the gist of it. I can't stand to look at it. Are you guys perfectionists like that? Every time you rig something, like it's gotta look right. See, and then I rig it too high up there. So annoying. Oh baby. Oh baby. Okay. So now there she is. Some rigged goodness. And for some reason, that even looks less natural to me than it did with the head and the eyes up there in the first place. But really, you'll notice just how much tail there is behind this hook. It does fold up nice, but you got to keep the bait relatively small. So diesel minnows or 3-inch minnows. Minnows. That's the bait right there. All right. I don't think they make the minnows in a different size. It just is what it is. So you might think that when I show you the Slim Swims that it actually looks better. This is the 3-inch Slim Swims. They make a 2.5-inch and a 3-inch. So theoretically, that 2.5-inch could be the deal on here. I really like this bait on a little chatterbait, specifically the flashback mini chatterbait that we've talked about on this channel a handful of times that is underrated. And that's really a BFS chatterbait slash spinning rod chatterbait. But here's what you get with the Slim Swims, which is a lot more along the lines of what you get with the Kitech Easy Shiner. So you get that very slender profile and pretty subtle tail kick. So I'll go with something like this, and then I'll step up to the 3-inch minnows, and then I'll step up to the Spark Shad. And I still find that the Spark Shad to me is like my go-to. It's where I've got the most confidence. But these are good alternatives as well, and versatile baits that can be thrown for a wide variety of species. Um, I've always loved Z-Man baits and probably will continue to use them for a long time. Just how it goes. No regrets. Did I just miss a couple comments up there? Adam says Z-Man came out with those new Diesel Minnow swim jig heads for their 5 and 7-inch. Yeah, I saw those. I mean, they look absolutely ridiculous, though. Some of them are like 3 ounces. But yeah. All right, Adam, no worries, dude. I'm sorry that I'm keeping you guys late. I understand that you got work tomorrow. I'm with my kids, so I can't totally relate to that. I worked the last 3 days, though, so I get it, man. No biggie. Thanks for hanging out. I'm probably not going to be on here much longer. It's already been hour and 28 minutes. So thanks for hanging. See you again soon. Maybe tomorrow night I might hop on with Matt, or I'm not quite sure. We'll see about that. Got to play tomorrow by ear because my wife is on call tomorrow. May or may not be working, but it's looking like she's probably going to be. So I am down to clown and talk baits if you guys are as well. Adam says, why is Berkeley, Japan holding out on us? I don't know, man. I wish they would bring some of their stuff over here. It's kind of weird. Daniel, at least you can relate. Thank you. You hate it if it doesn't line up right. It just doesn't feel right, you know? So it sucks when you're using a delicate bait and you don't rig it right. Oh, that's just one of those real bad feelings. So once you use the Spark Shad enough, you come to realize that it's actually almost easier to rig up than a majority of other baits on this jig head. It's almost like the way that they designed the head and just how soft the plastic is. It takes that keeper better than most other blends of soft plastic. I find it easier to rig the Spark Shad on the Okashira screwhead than other baits, but oh well. Bruce says, um, 2 tries at the most, and then I give up. That's funny. Bruce said, is it the 3-inch minnows? Is the 3-inch minnows a good mini max trailer or the 2.5? 3-inch. 3-inch minnows is an awesome mini max trailer, dude. Awesome. Because I like the 4-inch diesel minnows on like a jackhammer. Awesome trailer. But the 3-inch minnows is sweet on the mini max. That's a good one. Here goes Matt again talking about Berkeley, Japan. Matt is all about that power wriggler, whatever it is that they call it. But also says there's something about that scent that just does the trick, kind of like the Nori's Bass Bite and a few other scents. We've gone down that rabbit hole a few times, but Matt is a big fan of Berkeley, Japan products and has definitely put them on my radar as well as I'm sure the radar of a bunch of you guys as well with how much he talks about them. Adam, do add a crick hopper to your Bass Pro order. Please do. Um, You almost can't go wrong with the colors either, but that gold has been some kind of magic for me. That's the one that I keep coming back to. I've had success on most of them. Like I said, that yellow, the fire tiger, even the black, but that gold day in and day out wax them, especially rainbow trout. Don't know what it is. Usually brown trout are more aggressive at hitting top water, but last 2 to 3 years when I've tried to use that crick hopper and poppers for trout, rainbows absolutely go nuts for it. Daniel says, I feel like if it's not rigged right, it won't get bit, which is probably my fault because I lose confidence in it. That's so true. It's a trickle down effect, right? If you rig something and you know it's rigged poorly, does that not affect you, right? When you grab that fresh trailer and you thread it up on there, and all of a sudden it is like way too bunched up, and you realize that you did not rig that thing right, are you just going to say screw it and fish with it, knowing that that thing's not swimming right? Or are you going to do what you can to rip the plastic and fix that rigging so that it looks better and swims better? Or are you going to actually pull the whole thing off and try to re-rig it or pull a new one out and rig that on and make sure that it is right before you fish it? Because um, I don't blame you either way, but I would blame you more for just rolling with the crappy rigging than fixing it. Um, Mostly because I'm a fixer. I want it to be right. I want it to feel right. Because if I were a fish, I would be more likely to bite a bait that looks right, that feels right, that swims. I don't even want to say swims more naturally because I don't believe that as it's coming out of my mouth. But confidence is king. So if you look at a bait and you don't have confidence and you tie it on, you're probably not going to do very well with it. Um, that is just a fact. I think most of us can agree with that. Daniel says, we will never let Matt live down that green pumpkin scent. And I love how, who was it that was in there that night that very quickly came to Matt's defense saying, hey, no, green pumpkin is a real thing. It's a real scent because, an unripe pumpkin is green and it has a very distinct smell. So what Matt's saying makes perfect sense. Um, Even if there's truth to all that, it was such a hilarious moment, and that is why streaming live together is fun, dude. Thanks for the reminder, Daniel. Michael says the Berkeley, Japan Power Pop is a pretty sweet lure, like a frog and a popper combined. Dude, I've got them sitting right here. Oh, no, I don't. No, I don't. I have the walking shrimp. This is the walking shrimp from Berkeley, Japan. Berkeley Power Bait. Um, the walking shrimp. I had no idea what the heck this was when I purchased it, but check this thing out, dude. Made to be thrown on a weightless EWG. Looks like a freaking crab tucked in. So sweet. Meant to be thrown on a 4-aught EWG, I think it says. Superline EWG 4-aught. This is a top water shrimp, crab, whatever, but it looks pretty wicked. I'm gonna give this thing a whirl next year. Um, I bet you could even throw this on a weighted EWG and fish it on the bottom. Like, what if you took a hook like this, like the Z-Man? What do they call this hook? But you know this hook. And what if you just put that puppy on there? And you fish this down on the bottom. I don't know. I almost want to rig it. Yeah, more like this. Huh. Oh, she could work. Something like that. Little Texas rig. Or I think this is meant to be a top water, but yeah, Berkeley, Japan, these are things that like we would never hear about, would never see. This is a really cool bait. It's made from a stretchy, durable material. It's got these wild antenna silicone leg things on here. I mean, I like looking at weird stuff like that. Michael says that'll work for sure. Yeah, I think so too, man. Weird, like frog style lure that does not resemble a frog. Um, you know, do they throw a lot of topwater shrimp imitators in Japan? I don't know. Oh, and look, they even included a Superline EWG in there. All right. What is that bait? Says Adam. It's the Berkeley, Japan walking shrimp. The walking shrimp. Pretty sweet, eh? But yeah, it's a JDM bait. Weird one for sure, but one that I'm kind of excited about. And then this guy, I think this could be an awesome bait on the Okashira screwhead, dude. Holy shnikes. Did not think about that. That just might be like the ultimate rigging for this bait right here. This is the 2.8-inch Imakatsu Huddle Fat Fly. Okay. Maybe I rigged this up for you when I first got this bait, but I'm telling you, I think this is going to be the rigging. And yes, this is an expensive bait, so I'm going to take my time to rig it. Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God. I think in clear water, this guy would get her done. You get that really subtle thumping tail kick of this fat fly. This bait is one that was meant to be fished on a drop shot or a drop swim technique. And I think this presentation might just be one of the ultimate ways to fish this bait in this size. You're gonna get that stable swim with the shape of the belly on there. Yeah, do I leave that rigged? No. These are made from an elastomer material. This will melt if I leave it out, if it touches anything else. Oh, I'm excited about that. So, guys, thank you for hanging out and, just shooting the shit with me and getting a glimpse into my brain and the way that it works when it comes to thinking about baits and talking baits. This is fun for me. It's a nice little escape. So thank you very much for being a part of that, for hanging out with me. Yes, Matt, they are the elastomer ones. Elastomer. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I hear someone upstairs and it's weirding me out because my dog is down here with me. Um, and I'm pretty sure the doors are locked. Plus, no one's walking around outside right now. It's freaking freezing outside and there's a foot of powder on the ground. But still, um, I need to go look and see what's going on upstairs. And it's about 11 o'clock my time. It's super late on the East Coast. We've been hanging out an hour and 41 minutes. I super appreciate you guys stopping in, hanging out. If you haven't already hit the thumbs up button, do me that solid. Let's plan on perhaps hanging out tomorrow night, maybe with Matt, whether it's on my channel or his. I'll try to give you a heads up, post a notification on YouTube tomorrow if I can. Abe in here. Abe, you did miss it, dude. Good to see you in here. But Abe, Dave, Bruce, Adam, Daniel, Matt, everybody hanging out tonight. Lightning Muskie, don't know your first name. Great hanging out tonight, guys. Thank you very much for the support. See you in the next one. Peace. Frank, you too. Bye.